My name is R. Crosby Lyles, and this is News from the Can. This guy is talking about, apparently, he seems to think that this is a 60 Minutes Australia hit piece on Jordan Peterson. I don't know, I haven't seen it or anything like that, but he goes on to talk about the wage gap and things like that, the myth of the wage gap and so forth, but framed in terms of career choices, the legitimacy of real point-to-point wage gap. In other words, CEO A, who's male, gets paid more than CEO B, who's female, just simply because he's male. I have no idea about any of that. I mean, maybe it's true, right? But who cares? And who cares why? Because the facts on the ground, the experience of most men that I know, they make 10 times less than their wife or girlfriend. And that's just about every man that I know. Every man that I know does some sort of menial labor or is a mechanic, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, or something like that, but his wife is a banker or a lawyer or has college educated and has some sort of government job or something like that and literally makes 10 times more than he does. So, and I've heard this argument before from other people, but that's the experience of most men out there, that they don't have a pot to piss in. When they come home, it's like, they're the power and the power in the average household rests with the woman because the woman is making 10 times more than the man in most, American households. To be making more than a woman, you got to be some kind of ass-kicking dude. You have to be a neurosurgeon or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Or a very successful lawyer. Not just an average lawyer, a very successful lawyer. This is the average experience of most people. So that whole wage gap thing is like, what the hell are they even talking about? Okay, sure. I mean, people should get paid, commensurately for what, I've heard arguments that, they pay women less because women will put up with being paid less. And we've seen some evidence of that, of some shystiness coming from corporations, big companies. And they do that. That's how they do that. And people in the, poor folks in the hood, they already know how this is. I heard a story from the cable company that a friend of mine was getting paid. A friend of mine was paying exorbitant amounts for his cable television and broadband internet. And there were some issues with his bill. His bill was outsized, and he went in and complained, and they adjusted it. Now he's paying less. He's paying what he should pay. This happens all the time. You get your bill, they tell you, oh, this, you're going to get this and that, and you're only going to pay one low rate, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the bill, and they try you. And that's how it is. It's like, it's like we're living in a world where the grifters have taken over. So the argument about male value versus female value and all that stuff. Women, and let me just say this, get on this for a second. So I haven't heard this from Jordan Peterson, but I have heard it from Karen Strawn, that the bottom line is that if the aliens ever do attack, that what men will find out is that they are not totally worthless, but compared to a woman, you're not worth as much. It's one of these, and I think it might be this video here, where she says that your semen is worth about 10 cents, whereas the woman's reproductive machinery is worth a cool million. So women, just fundamentally, from a statistical standpoint, a mathematical statistical standpoint, women are more valuable than men, bottom line. Men ain't worth shit. Their value comes down to what they can fix, what they can do with their physical bodies, how well they can defend the woman. The woman is the thing to defend. The woman is the value. That reproductive organ, her reproductive organs, without those, the species dies. So when aliens come busting in the room, when we do it, just on a primal level, the men will just jump in front of the women, push them to the back, shield them, and we do it automatically. We jump in to defend the women, and we do that because women are more valuable. That baby-making machinery is the most valuable thing there is. So a young woman between the ages of 14 and 50 are by far and away more valuable than any man on earth. I don't care how much money he's got, depending on what's going on. So, and then young women, that's a valuable commodity. That's the most valuable commodity on planet Earth. Actually, it's the second most valuable commodity. More valuable than gold, silver, platinum, and there's a couple of compounds out there that they make jet engines out of, and I can't remember what the name of it is, and the glass for cell phones. The most valuable thing in the world is trust. The most valuable commodity in the world is trust. Because without that, you got nothing. Without that, you can't do business. You can't communicate. You're not believable. You got nothing. You really got nothing. They say, if you got your health, you got everything. Well, yeah, if you got your health, that's good. Maybe that's the third thing. The third most valuable thing is your health. But the first most valuable thing is trust. And this is why you hear religious people talking about trust on the Lord. How could we not trust God? And how does it feel not to be trusted? This is where a lot of friction comes. Profiling people based on their ethnicity and stuff like that, where we may be judging them and not trusting them as an innate initial response. And the reaction that we get is anger. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, why are you so angry? And we feel like victimized. An ethnic person, and I won't just throw out a label there, but just there's a spectrum there, of different ethnicities. An ethnic person will just step to us and say, what's your problem, and maybe even, want to become violent and stuff like that. Because think about it. How does it feel to be judged, prejudged? How does it feel not to be trusted, just out of hand? Trust is something you just got to kind of put out there. Give them a chance. And when they violate your trust, then you adjust. With stuff that's really valuable, obviously, we gotta you gotta earn trust, because some things are just too valuable to afford to lose even one time. That's a lot of stuff I didn't necessarily want to get into this particular video, but I wanted to snap off a video because of this wage gap myth. And I think that Karen Strong gets into this a good little bit. She's a men's rights person, but man, her data is strong. And don't put that label on me, that men's rights label on me. I'm just a reasonable, I'm a moderate. Enough with this. See, the clickbait thing, I was just talking to my brother about this earlier today. My brother was a blogger for a long time, still has a website. He doesn't really go there that much lately. But we were talking about clickbait. In order to make money on YouTube, you have to produce something that people are going to watch, and a lot of times that's a race to the bottom. It's all about making a thumbnail that people are going to want to click onto, and that boils down to outrage porn, clickbait. So you got to have the stuff that people are going to want to look at, and it's conflict. So it's a self-feeding nightmare. We want to see the conflict. We want to see the Peterson. Here comes Peterson, and he's fighting against the social justice warriors, and it's a conflict, and it's a war, and it's a game, and it's a blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's and so in order to get your shit seen, you know what I mean? You got to put something on there that somebody's going to want to look at, and they're going to want to look at something just as on a primal level. That dinosaur brain that we have, is geared to want to look at stuff that may be threatening our existence. And certainly things that are going to threaten our cultural existence. that existential fear, things that prang that existential fear, we're going to watch that shit. And this has been known for a long time. This is how to get those eyeballs. Prang that dinosaur brain, man, that existential fear. And people will tune in to see what the hell's going on. You know, and it's money. That's money in your pocket. Figure out how to do that, get those eyeballs, and get people a little bit edgy about their culture, the fate of their culture, and the fate of their children, and all this shit. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that a lot of people are becoming sort of hip to this now. So it's maybe not as easy to do as it has been, or maybe it is. I don't know. You know, I've been in my life, and I've been around this planet for a few decades now. Since the 60s, and I've seen them come and I've seen them go, you know. And about the time that you think that, I'll just give you an example, you know, grunge. I'm a musician also, and I wrote like a bunch of songs in this drop D tuning that all the grunge bands use, that I was doing 30 years ago, you know what I mean? I wrote a few songs with it and stuff like that, and I got bored with it. And I thought, well, shit, man, that's got to be it. I mean, this has got to dry up, you know, sooner rather than later. Well, I was wrong. You know, they were doing those same kind of riffs and stuff. They're still doing it. You know, and I thought, you know, I'm like, wow, I just kind of figured we would move on from that sooner, and we didn't. So, these primal tricks, they're going to be with us forever. Because, you know, that dinosaur brain just doesn't... You got to have that dinosaur brain to survive. To survive. When there are dangers that exist just from driving around town, or from creatures and critters and disease and people, other people, you know, that may or may not have good intentions. You know what I'm saying? Your dinosaur, you need your fucking dinosaur brain. So it ain't going away anytime soon. And so clickbait ain't going away anytime soon. You know, and it's just a fact of life. And yeah, women probably do get, you know, there probably is some pay inequality out there. There may be. And is the answer to, you know, for some sort of legislation? Well, you know, here's the other thing with that. You end up trading one kind of hell for another. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. Having spent time in prison, I can tell you that every time there was a rule change to try to fix a problem, they engineered another hell. So you went from one kind of hell to another. So every time they enact a law to fix some sort of... And this is what Peterson talks about, you know? Every time you enact a law to fix one kind of hell, you just create another kind of hell. That's all there is to it, you know? So maybe there's another answer. Maybe it comes down to, you know, women as individuals just have to be a little more, you know, I don't know, assertive or whatever. You know, maybe that's not it either. Because, you know, women, there's a lot of women out there that are, you know, that are pretty assertive. And good business people, you know. There's a lot of women out there that are great at business. Women are really, you know, and this is really another thing too. Women, one of the things about the female brain, and people get upset when you talk about things like this, but there's a difference between men and women. You know what I mean? Men are less organized, typically, than women. Women are organized, and that organization is all about that nesting thing and the baby and everything. And it's just there. I'm sorry, you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's there, and it's necessary, and they have that because we're fucking animals. We're animals that exist in the fucking world, man. So there are differences between male dogs and male cats and female cats, and male human beings and female human beings. There are things that women do, and their biology their physiology is different. Their brains are different. The communication, the left and right hemispheres of a woman's brain communicate better than men. This is just a known fact. I mean, it's just, you know, it's in the, you know, it's documented. This is documented. So, and this is all about having to, you know, keep track of children and the nest, the household and shit. Ergo, women have a tendency to be very good at business. Probably better than men, statistically speaking. So they have a tendency to have more money. really, you know, and on the average, men may be on the, you know, you got to look at, statistically speaking, on the tails, you know, there are probably more male billionaires, just because that's a function of that reckless, devil-may-care kind of thing that men can have. And it's not all or nothing, you know, some women have that. But statistically speaking, more men do, you know. It's a matter of statistics. So there's more male billionaires. And now we're all, you know, there's a schism. You know, there's this engineered schism. If you're going to divide and conquer the working class, your first order of business is to keep men and women divided on some bullshit. You know what I mean? You don't want them getting together on, you know, on socioeconomic policy. You want to keep them separated somehow or another. So this is, you know, yet another way that they do that. So they just keep everybody separated in their own hermetically sealed package of personal wants and needs and their own personal preferences. And, you know, keep them from talking, keep them from getting together about the economic stuff, about the necessity to tax the super rich equitably and to take care of the infrastructure in a way that everyone benefits, and that, you know, then that the poor folks are not unduly taxed. You know, that everybody shares so that we share the burden. You know, so but hey, I guess somebody's got to get out there and pick those melons, you know, and those tomatoes. Otherwise, you know, if you ain't got cheap labor to pick those melons and tomatoes, then they won't be affordable. You won't be able to buy them. They'll be too expensive or something. And it all boils down to that. Keep the wage floor low. Keep everybody divided. Keep that wage floor low. Keep, you know, cheap labor. That's what it's all about. Anyway, that's all I got. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. Hope you like this. If you like us, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell, you know, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I got a Patreon around somewhere, but, you know, I don't really hog that crap. I work for a living, and I really don't give a fuck. That's it. My name is R. Crosby Lyles. I do give a fuck. No, I do give a fuck. That's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.